Hey guys, this is Juan Velasquez here with formerly the Hump Day Hell. Today we're having a conversation numero uno, on something that comes near and dear to Brian and I's heart about just kind of being part of the larger conversation around cybersecurity, but more so the career track or the career path. So, good friend of ours, Amir Vereget. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep.
Really? Seriously? How do how,
If you were to say
Vereget?
Vereget, yeah.
Okay. See, I can do. I got a
So you can do
Velasquez.
it.
All right. So I'm here with Amir Vereget from Luckstone. He's a Well, actually, I want you to introduce everyone to what you do for Luckstone.
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Amir Vereget. I'm a security engineer at Luck Companies and kind of run the program for security. I started about 3.5 years ago at Luck, and from there we just really started kind of evaluating what does security mean for Luck, and how do we build something within our culture that fits. So it's that whole, everyone has the umbrella of security. There's some frameworks and things out there. Scope them down to Luck, and then make it work for us. So that's kind of what we're in the process of doing now, and so far so good. Everything's been flowing. We got some processes in place, some incident response, some monitoring going on, logs, all that good stuff flowing.
Yep.
Um,
All things that are so commonplace for probably Brian, myself, and obviously yours truly there. But as a person, and really we wanted to kind of cater this to the audience that's trying to get into cybersecurity, right? Like
absolutely.
you've come such a long way. I think you recently got your CISSP, right? So huge accomplishment. But there's so many out there that are like we are in desperate need of, right? For that like proverbial fight. Like where do they start, right? Because you mentioned frameworks, instant response, doing things that are right. Like that has to come through a lot of I don't know, trial and error, but also kind of expertise that you developed along the way. But where can an operator start? Someone that's maybe fresh out of school, maybe it's just in a different career. And it's like, look, I want to take this new track. What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a little bit earlier. I would kind of reach out and see like who's somebody that you know that's doing it right, and then looking at cybersecurity in general, broad topic. There's a lot of different things in cybersecurity that you can do, right? There's sales, there's
Yeah.
being incident response, being technical, not being so technical. So a lot of people, I think, assume that they have to be these programmers, these people that are analyzing code all day, and they're like, I just can't wrap my mind around that. So I think it's first getting to know somebody, in your circle or friends, and saying, what is it you do? Learn about some of those things and see what interests you the most, right? What kind of says, hey, if I was doing this on a day-to-day basis, I would enjoy it. I think that's where it starts. It's kind of just learning about the topics. Like we talk about security plus as like an industry standard to get into security, and I think that's a good place to start. When you know what you're talking about, you can be in these conversations and you can kind of take something back away from it versus just being so new and not understanding anything.
So with that in mind, you had to start somewhere.
I did.
What was your track?
My track was originally started in IT,
Okay.
or I would say back, I was working retail at one point. I was probably like 19.
So
And
something completely different.
oh,
And it's like,
absolutely.
I'm gonna go try this IT thing out.
Well, I knew I wanted to do something tech. It's
Okay.
like, tech is going on, it's booming at that time. And I was like, I have to do something that other companies would look at me from a technical perspective, right? Where, I can qualify for this position. So I did that and actually started working at T-Mobile. Like, that was my first thing where I started troubleshooting phones and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after that, moved to Apple. I worked at Apple for about 2.5 years. And then there I learned basically the basics, right? How to troubleshoot computers, what do computers do. So I had more of a background of technology, how it works, and then I got into the security focus. But nowadays when people are wanting to jump directly into it, I think you almost don't need to at all times, have all that technical knowledge because you're not going to, right? The reality of it is it's so in depth that you need to pick one thing to focus on and know it really well. And that's kind of what I did. Is I started in IT, started seeing that within the company I was working at the time, there were some areas of security that nobody was really focusing on. It wasn't a big deal, something I always wanted to do. So I did that, and then that progressed my track to go to focus security.
Something you mentioned there made me think of I think a lot of people's career track, right? Like the miracle is really in the motion, right? So you didn't get caught up with like, well, I don't know this, I don't know that. It's like, we call that in our world or in any world analysis paralysis. Like you just stay there and you don't move forward. So you kind of said, hey, you know what? I'm going to leave where I'm at. I'm going to learn something, get good at it, and then to slowly add additional skill sets. Fast forward, you kind of have obviously a couple chapters now underneath your belt. Now you now kind of started to add the CISSP, right? Has that been helpful? How is that track? What are some of the things you say, hey, these are some pitfalls I try to avoid as someone might be considering that.
Right. I would definitely say it's one of the challenging certs you can get out there, and like doing that alone gives you that motivation, and then it also fills a lot of gaps, right? Like you focus on a lot of things on a day-to-day basis where some things aren't, in your sight. So taking that kind of refreshes that and says, hey, I know these conversations are going on somewhere in the business about security, so I want to get involved, and you have a little bit more of a fresh perspective on it. So that helped me understand some of the conversations in different areas of business and our IT department, that really helped me from a manager perspective look at it and say, okay, I think this is where I would play in this, and then maybe we need to build some processes around that.
So there's a couple of things that made me think about. As a manager, you have the certification. You see where you fit kind of in the story, right, within an ecosystem of a organization, right? What about the person that hasn't had that? Do you think it's worthwhile to get the CISSP now, not having had the experience that you've had? Is it it's kind of like the person's like, should I get my MBA now, just after I got my undergrad? Is that valuable, or is it better to hey, let me finish my undergrad and get some business experience and then come back and do my MBA, where you can actually kind of take it back? And I see both sides of it. I'm just kind of curious what yours is.
Yeah, I think I'm on that fence too. I think I see both sides of it. I think, you know, having kind of a conversation with somebody and having that in your background, them knowing that, I think, their confidence in you is higher.
Yeah.
And then your confidence on yourself is higher. So I think it does help them, realize that, hey, this person knows what this stuff is. I know how to talk to them, and vice versa. So I think it's worth it. I don't think there's a situation where if you're qualified enough and you want to go ahead and get it, it will definitely help somebody in the career.
Okay, one way or another. So right. So basically, education is paramount. Do not worry where you are. Don't be afraid to take it now. It will serve you. Maybe not today, but at some point down the road, it will provide some dividends. Right.
Absolutely.
So speaking of education, like what are some of the resources you use to keep abreast of the latest technologies, what's going on in the world? How do you stay sharp?
I'm a big podcaster. In the morning, I'm on my Spotify, listening to CyberWire, Spoken Security are kind of the big ones that I listen to, and get my updates from them. And there's a ton of them though. Like those are some of the ones that I just tuned in. I ran into it just like anybody else. I was really just scrolling through Spotify, and whatever had consistent news, I was like, I'm gonna jump on that one and listen to it. So I typically use that as some good resources. The online world of imagination, as you'd say, there's so many things you can get into. But yeah, I would say every morning that's my ritual. When I'm driving, I'm listening to whatever the latest and greatest things are going on, threats and things like that in the world. So typically takes me into conversations with other people, and then I go find out more about it, and then go from there.
Nice.
If someone wants to bounce a question off you, is there a certain way to get in touch with you? Or, maybe looking for a mentor, or just maybe some pointers as they kind of embark on their career, or maybe kind of level up on where they're already at in their professional career?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is probably the best place to reach me on. I check that regularly, look at the news on there also regularly. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or wants to kind of see from my perspective more in depth, happy to share and help you out.
So I got another question. I'll probably splice it backwards though. But is there anything now, looking in hindsight, because we always have a 2020 vision, that you're like, God, I wish I had done, if I could do it all over again? And I'm not the type of person that likes to live with regrets, but we all kind of like, I would have done it differently in your career path or anything personally, because right, there's a lot of things to be garnered from that. I was curious if there's something kind of came to mind.
Man, when you said that, and I'm thinking back,
the laundry list,
filter through all that stuff. I really don't think so. I think the way that things happened, the people who I met that kind of taught me along and said, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. I think they were placed there, at the perfect time in order for me to learn from them.
That's good.
And then I'll go on and do my thing. So, I mean, I definitely have some people that in my last job and even my current job that help me out and say, hey, here's some of the things that you should worry about. Here's what's important. So those I don't think I would replace. And if anything around those things changed, who knows what the outcome would be. So I think I don't have any regrets.
No, I think that's a great lesson, though. I think so many times, we're in this one part of wherever we are in our life or career, and we're so afraid to reach out because of fear of what people will think. But it's great to have a mentor and also mentor someone along with you, right? Because I think each one of those kind of helps you personally grow, right? So no, that's good advice. Even it might not be in hindsight, but it's like, I wish I had become a mentor to people earlier in my life, right? But that's good advice, whether you knew it or not.
Let's flip it on its head. Where do you see security in 10 years?
Ooh.
The rise of AI.
Oh, man.
What do you think the future holds?
I think the rise of AI is undeniable. We can't say that it's not going to do certain things in each industry and maybe every industry. But I say in 10 years, our day-to-day stuff, the alerts, all that good stuff, I say those things are going to be handled by like a type 1 through 10 steps, some type of AI, automation basically, and how you classify your incidents coming in. I think those things from day to day get a lot easier. And then if you really wanted to think on the other side of it, man, it's so exponential, as they say. Like, it can get so quick to, we think it's going to do this, and the next thing you know, 10 years, it's skyrocketing all of our imaginations. We just don't know what those possibilities are. But I think overall, it's going to be a huge help in security. There's a lot of noise now that we're not sure what to do. A person has to look at it. We already know that stuff is kind of in play and being looked at by AI and making those decisions. So I think building on top of that for especially like situations where our team is building security, and I think those are going to be extremely helpful and getting kind of the 1 through 10 steps out of the way and concentrating on the bigger things.
So you mentioned your team, your leader on your team. How big is your team right now?
We are right now, so we traditionally worked with integrated with an infrastructure team.
Okay.
We slowly pulled security outside of that now.
Wise.
And we have our official analyst on the team now, but we still kind of spider off into infrastructure team as our kind of backup with incidents and things like that. I wouldn't even say backup. I think they're well versed within our team where we're working together and kind of triaging things and seeing what's new, what are they seeing in infrastructure, what recommendations they might have in certain circumstances. But yeah, we're very on the build front,
Well, I guess where I was coming from, right, as you're building a team, and again, this being career oriented, what are some of the things you look for as someone as you're kind of adding to that and kind of leveling up? Is there a certain type of personality, skill sets? I don't know.
Yeah, I think self-motivation is a big thing. If it's, if we have a task or something that, we say, hey, here's this thing, I want you to, take a look at it. What's the motivation of you maybe not knowing it, and then going and researching it, finding out. And if you don't even come with a full answer of this is how this thing works, this is what it does, at least being in there and trying to figure out what it is that it does, because then that lets me know that you're interested in it. You want to learn about it and you want to progress with it. So those things naturally come. Like, I think when I started in IT, it's like the technical things, all those things can be learned. But kind of your skills is being able to kind of want to do it.
Curiosity. Are you authentically curious? Oh, we say this all the time. God, pearls, friends. These are pearls. No, that's great. That's all I've got. I think this is a lot of good content. Anything else you want to add, Brian, for call to wrap?
Of course,
Amir.
absolutely.
Amir Vereget from Luckstone. Thank you so much. If you're interested in contributing to the greater conversation, career work, career-wise, what have you, reach out to myself or Brian. We'd love to have you on next and kind of be a contributing factor to tomorrow's security leaders. Awesome. Good man. Thank you, buddy. That was awesome.